Stoic Diary. Do you know what's really holding you back? It's not a lack of time. It's not that you're tired. It's not even that you don't know where to start. It's that you are letting yourself be carried away by your own mental laziness. Yes, just like you hear it every time you say, "I'll do it later, I'll start tomorrow," or "I just don't have the brains for it today." What you're doing is silently resigning from the life you deserve. And no, I'm not here to give you another motivational speech that makes you feel good for 5 minutes. I'm here to tell you something that no one ever tells you up front. Either you force yourself to be consistent, or you'll be left watching others live the life you only imagine. Being consistent isn't pretty, it's not comfortable, and it's certainly not easy, but it's the only thing that works. The Stoics knew it. Willpower is more important than inspiration. And if you don't learn to act even if you don't feel like it, you'll continue to be guilty of your excuses. This video isn't for those looking for easy tricks. It's for those who are fed up with procrastinating, for those who look in the mirror and no longer believe their own lies. Today, you're going to learn 10 brutal Stoic lessons that will break your comfort zone with a reality check. But listen carefully. The 10th lesson is the most powerful of all. That's not just going to change you. It's going to make you wake up feeling like you've had ice water thrown on your soul. Stay until the end, because if you do, you'll never see your life the same way again. And that, believe me, can be the beginning of something big. 1. Don't argue with your mind. Do what you said. The mind, that voice we all carry inside, that when you feel like taking on the world, it says, "Yes, let's go all out." But the next day, when the alarm clock rings, he whispers to you in a sweet tone, 5 more minutes. Today, it's okay if you don't do it. And so, without realizing it, you end up negotiating with your will. And the worst thing is that he almost always loses. Look, the problem isn't that you're tired or that you're busy. The real problem is that you keep arguing with a part of you that will never want to make an effort. Because yes, your mind is a master at justifying the unjustifiable. He sells you excuses as if they were absolute truths. You'll do it tomorrow. You're not at 100% today. Get some rest. You deserve it. But if you hear that every day, when will you ever move forward? The Stoics had it very clear. Duty is above desire. Marcus Aurelius, who wasn't just an emperor, but a guy who had some real problems, wrote, "At dawn, when you find it hard to get up, remember that you are meant to be human. What were you made for? To curl up in blankets or to take action? What are you made for? To watch productivity videos and feel good for 5 minutes? Or to get up and do what you said you would, even if your mind is screaming no? The secret is simple, though not easy. Keep your promises, especially when you no longer feel like it, because that's when you build character. Not when you're motivated, but when you feel dragged and still follow through. 0339. Start small. If you said you'd go for a 20-minute walk, go out even if it's raining. If you promised to write a page a day, write even if it turns out crappy. It's not what you do, it's the message you send to your mind. I'm in charge here, and when you teach it that, it begins to obey. With the overtime, the voice of excuses becomes quieter, and the voice of discipline becomes louder. So stop arguing with your mind as if it were your friend. It isn't. You don't owe him explanations. Just comply. Do what you said and that's it, because every time you fulfill your dreams, you become freer. 2. Stop talking to yourself like you're a victim. There is something you must understand from now on. What you tell yourself when no one is listening shapes the life you end up living. And this isn't cheap motivation, it's raw reality. Have you noticed how you talk to yourself when you fail? "I'm a mess. I never finish anything. I'm sure things are going to go wrong for me again." And you know what the most do's up thing is? That you repeat that so much that your mind ends up believing it. And once you believe you are a victim of your circumstances, your past, your mistakes, your bad luck, you fade away without realizing it. You become the narrator of a tragedy that you yourself are writing daily, without pause. Stoicism puts an uncomfortable but necessary mirror in front of your face. You are not what happens to you, you are what you decide to do with what happens to you. And that phrase, brother, hurts because it leaves us without excuses. Epictetus said it without anesthesia. It's not the things that harm us, but how we interpret them. And you, how are you talking to yourself? Every time you say, I can't, I'm not consistent, that's just the way I am. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You're programming yourself to fail. That's strong. Changing that internal narrative is like reprogramming old software full of viruses. It won't happen overnight, but it has to start now. And how do you start? By stopping talking to you as if you were a fragile, helpless victim and starting to talk to you like a warrior who is rebuilding. Next time you fail, don't insult yourself. Tell yourself, yes, I failed, but I'm still in the game. I can still get back up. I can still do better. No one builds perseverance from self-pity. Perseverance is built from self-respect, and self-respect begins when you decide to stop treating yourself like you're the problem and start treating yourself like the most important project in your life, because you are. So every time your mind tries to knock you down with its defeatist rhetoric, respond firmly. I'm here to change that story, and this time I'm not going to betray myself. Let it be heard loud and clear, even if it's only within you. 3. Discipline is built, not inherited. If you believe that some people were born with discipline in their blood, you are living a lie that is robbing you of your own potential. Discipline is not a genetic gift or a secret superpower that only a privileged few are given at birth. It is a forged skill, built on mistakes, days without desire, stumbles and uncomfortable decisions repeated over and over again. Because yes, consistency and self-discipline are like a muscle, and if you never train it, it will never respond when you need it. The problem is that we've been sold the idea that if something doesn't come easily or naturally to you, then it's not for you. But do you know what's easy? Postpone, complain, blame the past. Anyone can do that. The difficult thing is having the character to create your own foundations. And that's the point. Discipline is not found, it is manufactured. The Stoics were not emotionless robots. They were humans like you and me, with fear, with pain, with real problems. What made them different was their ability to choose to act, even when they didn't feel like it. To make the right decisions, even when everything in their bodies told them otherwise. Seneca said it clearly, life doesn't get any easier. It's you who gets stronger, and that strength doesn't come from luck, it comes from practice. How do you start building discipline? Not with giant changes, but with tiny but unwavering commitments. I'll tell you like this, if you can't accomplish the small things, you won't accomplish the big things either. Do you want to start transforming your life? So start making your bed every morning. Start going for a walk, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Start writing, even if it's just 2 paragraphs that no one will read. The important thing isn't how much you do, but that you fulfill what you promised, because little by little that rebuilds your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is inconsistent and begin to recognize yourself as someone who delivers. And that, brother, changes your whole perception of the world. You no longer wait for external motivation. You no longer depend on how you woke up. You act because you said you would, period. That is the essence of Stoic discipline. To be true to your values, even when the day is cloudy, even when you are sad, even when no one applauds you. Every time you choose duty over emotion, you are winning an invisible but powerful battle. Because discipline is not inherited, it is built daily, with every decision you make when no one is looking. 4. Don't stop. Even if you go slowly, there is a silent trap that destroys us from within, believing that if we don't move forward quickly, then we're not moving forward. That sick idea was instilled in us from childhood, with prizes for the fastest, with applause for whoever arrived first, with absurd metrics that make progress seem like a race. But listen to me carefully. Life is not a speed competition. It is a test of endurance. The winner is not the one who runs the fastest, the one who doesn't stop. And this, although it sounds simple, is what separates those who achieve real transformation from those who live stuck in eternal cycles of frustration. Because yes, there are days when you'll feel like you're moving at a snail's pace, that everything is going slowly, that what you want to achieve seems so far away that it even hurts. But that's exactly the moment when you have to grit your teeth and keep going, because moving slowly is still 1,000 times better than standing still. Epictetus made it clear with a phrase that is like a dagger of wisdom. Don't worry about things happening soon, but rather about doing what is necessary to make them happen someday. Do you see it? The focus is on direction, not speed, on not letting go of the helm, even when the sea is rough. Stoic perseverance isn't about taking giant leaps. It's about taking conscious steps. Even when the terrain is tough, even when your body is heavy, even when you feel like no one notices your efforts. Because at the end of the day, progress isn't measured in applause, but in coherence with yourself. At night, when you turn off the lights and go to bed in silence, the only thing that matters is whether you took one more step today, no matter how small. And I'll tell you something else. Slow progress is usually the most solid, the most profound, because when you go slowly, you learn, you mold yourself, and you become stronger. Those who go fast often break at the first obstacle, but those who go firmly, even if they are slow, go further. So don't compare yourself to others. Don't despair if someone else seems to be flying while you're crawling. Everyone has their own pace. Just make sure you never stop. Move forward with fear, with doubt, with dreams. But move forward because with each step, you are building not only your goal, but the best version of yourself. 5. Be consistent. Even if no one notices, do you know what the hardest thing about consistency is? It's not about getting up early, or putting up with routine, or overcoming laziness. The truly difficult thing is to remain steadfast when no one sees it, no one recognizes it, and no one celebrates it. Because in a world where everything revolves around likes, applause, and how awesome you are, being persistently silent is almost an act of rebellion. And this is where the purest Stoic force comes in, doing the right thing, even if there are no witnesses, even if no one applauds, even if only you know that you are fulfilling your duty. Because that is where you become truly strong. Most people start out enthusiastically when there's attention, when someone's looking at them, when the goal sounds impressive. But over time, when the applause fades and the road becomes lonely, many give up. And perseverance without an audience confronts you with yourself, with your true commitment, with your word. The Stoics knew this for centuries. The wise man acts virtuously for his own sake, not because of the opinions of others. That's what Seneca said, and it makes more sense today than ever, because it's not about pretending, but about building an integrity that doesn't fall with the wind. Did you get up to train and no one noticed? Good. You've been writing your goals for 20 days, and no one has said anything to you. Perfect. You're making progress on something important, and no one is congratulating you. Even better, because it means you're doing it for yourself, not for recognition. And that's exactly what makes you unstoppable. True perseverance makes no noise, but its results are deafening. When the time comes to reap what you sowed, the world will think it was luck. But you, and only you, will know that it was invisible effort, quiet perseverance, and fidelity to your principles. So stop looking for external validation. Stop waiting to be noticed. No one needs to see your process for it to have value. You are not an influencer of your own life. You are the architect, and the strongest foundations are always made underground. So keep going day after day, step after step, even if no one notices, even if it seems like nothing changes, even if only you know how hard it is. Because the day will come when all that silent work turns into the noisy life you always dreamed of living. And that day you will be ready, because it is not up to you. Applause. It was up to you. 6. Train your mind to think differently. The mind, my friend, is like fertile ground. If you sow garbage, weeds grow, but if you sow awareness, actions flourish. And as harsh as it may sound, most of us are stuck in old, limiting, repetitive thought patterns, like a scratchy song we don't realize we keep hearing every day. Phrases like, "I'm not disciplined," "I've always been that way," "I'm too old to change." They are not truths. They are mental programs that are activated by inertia. And the most dangerous thing is that every action is born first as a thought. If you think badly, you live badly. If you talk to yourself like a failure, you act like a failure. So simple and so crude. But there is also good news. The mind is trained. It doesn't matter if you've been thinking defeatist thoughts, victimhood, or fear of change for years. You can rewrite all of that, not with magic phrases from Pinterest, not with empty affirmations, but with brutal awareness, intentional repetition, and lots of daily practice. The Stoics knew it and did it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his diary every morning to remind himself how he wanted to think during the day. They called it premeditatio malorum, mentally anticipating what could happen, not to suffer ahead of time, but to be prepared, to stay focused, to not get carried away by emotion. That's training the mind, not letting thoughts come as they please, but filtering, questioning, and directing them toward what truly serves. Start by noticing what you tell yourself. Whenever something doesn't go as expected, what do you tell yourself? Do you punish yourself? Do you sabotage yourself? Do you give up mentally before trying again? If the answer is yes, then there is work to be done. And it's okay, because we're all on that path. But if you don't pay attention to it, you'll never be consistent, because without an aligned mind, there's no discipline that can last. So today starts with something basic. Every time you find yourself thinking, "I can't," change that phrase to, "It's not easy, but I can learn." Every time you find yourself thinking, "I'm going slow," repeat to yourself, "I'm making progress." And that's what counts. That's the seed. Over time, your mind will stop being an obstacle and will become your best ally. Train your thinking as if it were the most important muscle in your body, because it is. And when you do, everything else follows. Motivation, consistency, focus. 7. Choose what is difficult and strengthen your character. We live in an age where everything is designed to avoid minimal effort. Fast food, instant solutions, non-stop entertainment, and even motivational phrases that tell you that if it doesn't flow, it's not for you. Lie. Just the opposite. If it doesn't cost anything, it's probably not worth it, because what's easy lulls you to sleep, but what's difficult builds you up. And yes, it sounds harsh, but it's also a blessing if you know how to take advantage of it. Look, character isn't built by reading pretty books or repeating phrases in the mirror. Character is built by choosing what is uncomfortable on purpose, not because you are a masochist, but because you know that it is within the fire that steel is tempered. The Stoics understood this like few others. To be strong, you must first go through difficulty without bending. Epictetus, who was a slave, said, "Don't ask for things to be easier. Ask to be stronger." And that, my friend, is one of the most powerful truths you'll ever hear in your life. Today, we are so accustomed to immediate gratification that we give up at the slightest obstacle. We change goals, projects, partners, jobs, thinking the problem is external, but it isn't. The problem is that no one taught us to stay when it burns, to resist when it hurts, to hold on when no one is looking. Do you want to strengthen your character? So start choosing what's difficult every day. Not because there isn't a more comfortable option, but because you know that what's difficult is the path that transforms you. Get up when you don't feel like it. Train even if you don't see results. Be honest even if your voice trembles. Say no when everyone expects a yes. Endure judgment, criticism, and uncertainty, because every time you consciously choose the difficult path, you are telling yourself, I can handle this and more. And over time, that makes you invincible. No one can beat someone who has become accustomed to effort. No one can beat someone who chooses to grow in discomfort, because that person does not depend on circumstances. He depends on his temperament. And that, my brother, is not bought, it is cultivated. So the next time you have two paths in front of you, the easy one and the challenging one, you know which one to choose. Choose the one that makes you uncomfortable, the one that takes you out of your comfort zone, the one that makes you sweat, doubt, and move forward, because that's where your true strength is born. And believe me, when you get used to what's difficult, the world stops intimidating you. 8. Always remember why you started. Sometimes the routine, the tiredness, the days that repeat themselves like a boring photocopy, the small failures that accumulate like stones in your pockets, all of this drains you from within, until one day you realize that you no longer remember why you started on that path that seemed so important, so personal, so visceral, but that today feels like something distant, blurry, almost meaningless. And that, my friend, is one of the most common reasons why we abandon what we once said was vital, because we forget the reason, the fire, the seed that made us take the first step. And when you forget your purpose, any excuse sounds reasonable, any obstacle feels insurmountable, and any criticism tears you down because you're no longer connected to your mission, but trapped in the monotony of survival. That is why this point is key in the Stoic path. Reconnect with purpose. Remember with brutal honesty why you decided to start. Why did you say no more? Why did you close cycles? Why did you want to improve, heal, change, transform? Because true perseverance is not sustained by motivation, but by meaning, by a purpose so profound that it shakes your soul when you think about giving up. Marcus Aurelius did not write for the world, he wrote for himself. To remember in the midst of chaos who she was and what she was meant to do, she would say, do what you must, even if the world burns, and you too have to mentally write down your why. Burn it into your forehead if necessary, because that's where your compass is. And it doesn't have to be something gigantic or epic, it just has to be real. Maybe you started out of tiredness of living on autopilot, of not wanting to leave this life without at least trying to be the best version of yourself for your children, to honor someone who's no longer here, to look in the mirror and not feel like an imposter, or for something as human as wanting to walk down the street without that knot of anxiety in your chest. Whatever it is, as long as it's authentic and that reason isn't found outside, it's inside waiting for you to stop ignoring it. So every time you feel yourself faltering, that you're sabotaging yourself, that your mind is telling you it doesn't matter anymore, pause, close your eyes, and go back there to that moment where you decided to start. Go back to that raw feeling where you said, from here on, go ahead, I won't let you down anymore. And if you manage to relive that, I swear you'll continue, because he who remembers why he started always finds a way to continue. 9. Master your time, master your life. There's one reality that hurts more than a blow to the chest, and it's this. You don't lack time, you lack focus. Most people aren't busy. They're messy, confused, trapped in a self-imposed chaos filled with notifications, to-dos that don't matter, and commitments they didn't even want to accept. And that eventually becomes a slow, silent form of personal sabotage. Because time, brother, is not just gold. Time is life, and every minute you give away to the unnecessary is one less brick in the construction of the life you say you want. So direct. Stoicism isn't going to sell you magic formulas to better organize your schedule. It will confront you with the essential. What are you dedicating the most valuable thing you have to? Because if you don't control your time, someone else will control it for you. Social media, television, people who live for distraction, bosses who want to squeeze you, or worse, your own mental inertia that makes you spend hours on autopilot while life slips through your fingers like sand. And the brutal thing is that you don't need a tragedy to make you realize it. All you have to do is sit down one day and ask yourself, with your eyes wide open, how many hours of my day are truly aligned with what I want to build? And if the answer makes you uncomfortable, good, because that discomfort is the beginning of the transformation. The Stoics practiced something called memento mori, which was not an obscure phrase but a tool of lucidity. Remember that you are going to die, not to scare you, but to remind you that you don't have time to live unfocused, dull, reacting to everything that comes along without intentionally deciding what enters your world. Mastering your time isn't about living in a hurry. It's about living with direction. It's about deciding what you put your attention on, what you invest your energy in, what you say yes to, and most importantly, what you say no to. Because every no you say to the superficial is a silent yes to what really matters. So today, without excuses, start observing your days like an architect observes his plans, with clarity, with strategy, with vision. Block spaces for what strengthens you. Eliminate what only drains you. Stop filling your schedule like a firefighter putting out other people's fires, and start building a routine that serves your purpose, because you can't be consistent if you don't know what you're investing your life in. And the only way to have control is to make uncomfortable decisions. Turn off your phone, disconnect, say I can't. Cancel meetings that only waste your time and start spending your hours like a warrior. Use your sword with intention, with precision, and with courage, because mastering your time, believe it or not, is the most direct way to master your life. 10. Reward yourself for making progress, not for making excuses. Here comes a truth that makes many people uncomfortable today. We're so used to rewarding ourselves for everything that we end up celebrating even when we fail. And that, even if you don't notice it, is a slow poison that destroys your discipline from within. Because if every time you skip your workout, you treat yourself to junk food, because if every time you put off something important, you reward yourself with a Netflix series to take your mind off things, if every time you fail to comply, you embrace an excuse disguised as self-love, then what you are reinforcing is not your progress, but your regression. And that, my friend, locks you into a cycle where you feel better for failing than for moving forward, where your mind begins to associate gratification with evasion, and that is a silent crime against your own constancy. The Stoics spoke a lot about self-control, not as a way of living repressed, but as a way of living with direction. If you want to be unbreakable, don't let yourself be corrupted by the desire for immediate pleasure, said Epictetus. And that phrase, as uncomfortable as it is powerful, is more necessary than ever. Because today, the world screams at you to reward yourself for everything, even for doing nothing, as if rest were more important than progress, as if emotional validation came before your promise to yourself. And of course, you must give yourself breaks. Of course, rest is part of the process. But that must come after you've fulfilled your promise, not before. The reward comes as a result of the effort, not as consolation for doing nothing, because if not, what are you really reinforcing? The habit of moving forward or the habit of justifying yourself? So, if you want to stay consistent, start by training yourself in something very simple but brutally effective. Reward yourself only when you accomplish. It doesn't matter if it's a small step, if you wrote just one page, if you did 15 minutes of exercise instead of an hour. The important thing is that you did something when you could have done nothing, and that deserves recognition. But don't applaud yourself for having convinced yourself with pretty excuses that today wasn't the day, because there's no progress there. There is only resignation in disguise. Change your chip. Let your brain start associating pleasure with progress. May satisfaction come from knowing that you were loyal to what you said you would do, not to the emotions of the moment. And over time, you're going to start to feel something incredible, quiet pride. The one who doesn't need applause, because he lives inside you. That which is not bought, that which is built with each action taken, even if no one sees it. So do it for yourself, but do it right. Don't reward yourself for lying to yourself. Reward yourself for moving forward, for growing, for fulfilling, for choosing yourself. And there, in that small act of justice with yourself, you will find the energy you were looking for. And now that you've made it this far, don't tell me that nothing has changed inside you, because what you just heard weren't just words. They were mirrors. Every point, every reality check, every Stoic lesson was a reminder that you're no longer here to fail yourself. You don't need motivation, you need commitment. No more pretty excuses, no more putting off the version of you know you can be. There is no turning back now. Consistency is not a luxury, it is an urgency. Because if you don't choose yourself every day, no one else will. So it starts broken, it starts tired, it starts scared, but it starts now. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, give it a like, and share this video with someone who needs a wake-up call. And if you're really serious, leave this phrase in the comments. I'm not going to let myself down, because starting today, half-hearted attempts are over and your real change begins.